So he says, speculation about the nature, the history, and identity of that entity is useless and of no value. Well, I guess I've spent years and years of my life in uselessness, pursuing that which is of no value. The identity. What is the entity? The entity is the one and only entity in cosmos. But what type of self-divisions has that entity been through? What is the emanatory history of that entity from the one dread point, the absolute point of being, which is that entity? What have been the pathways which have led to all of the complexity and the incredible interrelations that we're only now beginning to perceive? That's what I think is quite useless. In other words, we couldn't possibly trace that. But if we can get some slight idea that, in fact, it did occur, that emanation has occurred, then at least we know something about the process. Let me move to a picture. Yeah, that's the one. Now, this is a very incomplete picture, but it gives you an idea of how the one, the three, becomes the seven, becomes the many, all in the emanation of septinets. This sevenfold system, which is probably of the cosmic planes, I think, whenever the word K, cosmic, is used, it seems to suggest not the systemic planes, but something much larger, each one of which contains 7 systemic planes. I think it's a very abbreviated picture. I think, in a way, it only goes as far as maybe what we might call our local super-constellational God, the one about whom naught may be said, of which there seem to be several, including the galaxy. But let's just say that this gives us the idea of how it works. In other words, each one of these entities containing the 3 circles in the middle might be only one of 7, and on and on and on. We don't know how high this can extend. Perhaps there are 10 dimensions to cosmos. DK seems to think so. And if this is the case, we're only dealing, even in this vast map, with maybe the 2nd dimension. So, but it gives you the idea of how emanation proceeds, and how every one is only one of 7, which is, and every one of those 7 is only one of 7. So no matter which one we choose as a 1, and it may emanate 7, it's still only one of 7. And so we can begin our multiplication process, and even with this very abbreviated map, we can begin to realize the vastness of the cosmos, of plane within plane within plane. I don't say plane upon plane, I say plane within plane within plane. Far vaster than any human mind can conceive. And that's why, perhaps, speculation about the nature, the history, and identity of that entity is useless and of no value. We can just call it the one God, God of our universe, who we are. We are that deity in extension, in attenuation, but essentially we are that. And the great problem in religion today is between those who separate God from man and his creation, and those who realize the transcendent nature of deity, but also realize the immanence of deity. Deity is in all things, and more than that, deity is all things. This is what I would call an enlightened philosophical pantheism. And people become quite red in the face about pantheism. And when you have the statement, I am God, they immediately think you're saying that I, the person, am God, as if you are declaring your own megalomaniacal omnipotence. But it's not that at all. We're talking about essences. And it seems that if we can only understand that there is but one essence, we will be far more advanced in our understanding of the true nature of reality. So he tells us we can't really speculate about this one entity, which he calls space. I call it the universal logos. Some dim idea, providing analogy even when eluding specifications, might be gained if you will endeavor to think of the human family, the fourth kingdom of nature, as an entity. And we should do that indeed, as constituting a single unit, expressing itself through the many diversified forms of man. You as an individual are an integral part of humanity, yet you lead your own life. You react to your own impressions. You respond to exterior influences and impacts. And in your own turn, you emanate influences, send forth some form of character radiation, and express some quality or qualities. I think it's getting late here. But pressing on, you thereby and in some measure affect your environment and those whom you contact. Yet all the while, you remain part of a phenomenal entity to which we give the name of humanity. Well, I would go further. Of course, it is common sense to say we remain part of this phenomenal entity, humanity, but we are not only the part, but we are the whole. Because if we extract the essence and extract the essence and extract the essence, as we achieve freedom from vehicle after vehicle, we re-become the whole we always were. But I think you can see what he's saying here. There is the one emanating source and a number of emanations, and they too are emanators. And he talks about what is the emanation of man, our own character radiation, the quality or qualities we express. We constantly have emanations. And perhaps these rays from us, these emanations, in certain ways live and are lives in themselves. So anyway, we can extend this idea to a greater phenomenal entity. In other words, the outpicturing of the noumenon, of the central reality, the solar system. We are all parts of the solar system. As a matter of fact, we are said as monads to have our home within the sun. It may not be our ultimate home, but it is probably a penultimate home, a nearly ultimate home. Well, actually, there are many removes, but for the moment, our home is within the sun. And in a way, we are a spiritual ray of the solar logos. And if we retract ourselves along our line of emanation, we shall discover ourselves to be none other than the solar logos, all of us together. Now, this solar system, this entity is itself an integral part of a still greater life. which is expressing itself through 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. Now, I believe that this being is called a cosmic logos. And if I can go over here to a treatise on treatise on cosmic fire, go to page 293, you'll see this tabulation number 2, it's very important, and you will see how decay is ascending from man to a planetary god, a heavenly man, to a solar logos. He's talking about a solar logos is part of something greater. What is it? What is that greater thing? That greater thing is a cosmic logos, which has in it 7 solar systems, 7 major solar systems. Every one of these entities can have many, many lesser entities within them, but there's always 7 major. And on until we reach an entity in which a cosmic logos is simply a chakra, a center. And this entity is called the unknown, and other names for it have been the one about whom naught may be said, but we just cannot think that it ends there. I don't think it does at all. It's just the beginning. If we go back here to this chart on page 344 of Cosmic Fire, I do believe, and there are many differing opinions, okay, but I'm just sharing my own here, that that entity we just called the unknown is that one, that little green one right there, out of which a number of solar logoi come, and then there are 7 of these unknowns in a still greater unknown, and 7 of the still greater unknowns in a cosmic parabron, which we can imagine is only one of 7, and on, until the 10 dimensions of cosmos are fulfilled. So you see, Master DK is giving us some really grand perspectives. He always begins with the big picture, but don't worry, someday we're going to get to the specificities. We can just get through this introduction. Okay,